as well as the mainstream stuff at Geneva, which you can see in our big overall review video up here. There is a bit more esoteric stuff, a bit more unusual stuff, and this is it. This is the Roof SCR, a production version of a prototype first shown at Geneva 2 years ago. Imagine your perfect 911, basically. Does it look like this? Roof has developed its own carbon fibre chassis to which it attaches its own carbon fibre body. It is not a Porsche tuner, it is a car maker. Nonetheless, there is a 4-litre flat 6 in the back driving the rear wheels through a 6-speed manual gearbox. That makes 510 horsepower, which is just a bit more than the current 911 GT3. But the curb weight is just 1,325 kilos. A GT3 is at least 150 kilos more than that. So this will do 199 miles an hour and should be quite agile. It will cost you around £600,000, and Roof reckons it'll build around 15 a year. If you're interested, it has been homologated at 20.8 miles to the gallon and 324 grams per kilometres of... You don't care, do you? What is the Hyundai Kite? Well, it's a 2-seat, 3.7 metre long buggy, but that's not what's interesting about it. What's interesting is that the 2-seat buggy can convert into a single-seat jet ski. So this from the official blurb. The concept car overcomes the idea of a vehicle moving on the road and on the water without boundaries between interiors and exteriors, being not just a vehicle but a place that enhances the experience of the driver. Look, I've got absolutely no idea what they're talking about either, but it is quite cool, no? This C2 is not a Citroën, but the next car from Rimac, the Richard Hammond troubling electric hypercar maker. The specs on this are off the usual scales. The electric C2 hypercar makes 1,888 horsepower and 1,700 foot-pounds of torque, which is meant to be good for a 62 mile an hour time of 1.85 seconds and a top speed in excess of 250 miles an hour, so long as you go somewhere A, grippy enough, and B, long enough, presumably. Now, if you don't drive it like that, the range is said to be 400 miles. Rimac is a serious company. Colleagues of mine who spent time with the Concept 1 and haven't set fire to them have come away well impressed. Rimac only made 8 Concept 1s, but it is hoping to build 150 of these C2s, with production cars arriving in 2020. Do you like the Mercedes AMG E63 but think it's a bit light on power? I know. Look, we feel your pain, and so does Brabus, the German tuner, which kind of doesn't know where to stop really, hence the Brabus 800. It has given the E63 another 188 brake horsepower, taking the total to 789 horsepower in our money. That's 800 metric horses, hence the name. That's said to be good for a 3-second 0 to 60 mile an hour time and a top speed limited to 186 and, importantly, a 100,000 kilometre Brabus warranty. Expect to have parted with £300,000 or more by the time you get one on the road though, and if the E-Class isn't big enough or exclusive enough for you, they will do similar things to an S-Class saloon or coupe. And if you think the things Brabus does with an E-Class are silly, here's what it can do to a G-Class. The Brabus Adventure 4x4 Squared isn't strictly new this year, but while we were there, well, you can't miss it, can you? Brabus takes the G500 version of the G-Class and massages its 4-litre twin-turbocharged V8 up to 550 horsepower and, as importantly, I suspect, 590 foot-pounds of torque. Now, you can spec it as a complete vehicle, or you can just pick and choose your bits, just in case you don't necessarily need remote control LED searchlights on the roof, or power retractable steps, or maybe you only want those. Anyway, choose it as a whole thing, and it will cost you around £450,000. The keen-eyed among you will notice that the Honda CRF 450 Rally is not exactly a car, lacking as it does 2 wheels and quite a lot of bodywork. But will you just look at it? 5 of these were rallied by a Works Honda team on the 2018 Dakar, with one of them finishing in second. So what's to know? It has a mostly aluminium frame with a carbon fibre subframe, and the big 449cc single-cylinder engine makes over 60 horsepower. That doesn't sound like a lot in car terms. I mean, it isn't a lot in car terms, but it will be over rough ground in bike terms. Now, this thing will take 33.7 litres of fuel. That is about the same as a lot of Super Minis, but what it doesn't have is the standard satellite navigation of most Super Minis, so you just use this paper scroll thing. And all in all, when it's fully laden, you're looking at a bike that weighs over 200 kilograms. All of that seems like quite hard work, but brilliant work to us. The history of this new Stratos is quite complicated. It was first commissioned by a billionaire in 2010, based then on a Ferrari 430 Scuderia, and it was designed by Pininfarina. But Ferrari then told any of its suppliers that if they wanted to keep working with them, they ought not to be involved at all, so it all went rather quiet. But now, Manifattura Automobili Torino, MAT, which makes the Glickenhaus race cars and also at least some of the new Apollo Arrow, seems to have obtained permission from somebody, or just doesn't care enough, to put this thing into limited production. It is bigger than the original 1970s Stratos, and it's heavier too, although still only 1,250 kilos. There's a slight rearward weight bias, and the F430's 4.3-litre V8 engine is still present and correct and tuned here to around 550 horsepower, which drives through Ferrari's paddle shift transmission. Prices will start from around £485,000, plus, of course, you still need an F430. The number of people who remember driving an original E-Moke is presumably shrinking by the day, and they certainly don't include this floppy-haired teenager. But the design at least lives on in the form of the E-Moke, which, as its name suggests, is a reborn electric version of the old soft-top Mini. You can get an E-Moke in two basic versions: a lead-gelled battery version, which will get you 50 miles between charges and then takes 6 hours to recharge, or a lithium-ion battery version, which will go 80 miles and can be charged in only 2 hours 30 minutes. These E-Mokes are made in France and they have distributors in Italy, Spain, even Tahiti, but sadly not the UK. Thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Please don't forget to comment below, like, up thumb or down thumb as you prefer, subscribe. We are here every week and we're on autocar.co.uk all the time.